All right, no matter if you are a beginner or let's say a professional day trader, you have to be able to basically understand how to trade the correct way by looking at your charts. I always tell people to, form some type of bias within the market, meaning using a top-down analysis approach when it comes to using higher charts and then moving down to lower charts to find your entries. But I always start with the higher charts to figure out the movement, the directional path, the trend in which the market is moving, because you want to form a bias in which way to actually trade. I start by marking my zones up once I identify that direction of the market from my higher charts and then move down lower. So today is all about, the lessons to learn when you are actually looking for opportunities to scalp within the market, specifically, the indices or the futures markets. Okay. So for all my E-mini traders out there who trade, like the NASDAQ futures or the E-mini S&P 500 futures, or maybe you trade some like commodity like gold futures. All right. Both the micro and the E-mini futures. You want to start by looking at your higher charts. Now, if you trade time charts or volume charts, tick charts, or even range charts, for me, that's what I trade. You've got to start from a higher perspective to understand, looking at these higher charts to form a bias so you know which way to trade. Okay, because the higher charts are going to let you know, overall what the market is doing. How is it trending, whether it's bullish or bearish to the upside, and you want to trade accordingly when you move down to your lower charts. Now, when I'm looking at my higher chart, say specifically here on GC, on gold, futures, okay, it's the E-mini version, I'm looking to see what the market is doing. And if it's bearish to the downside, pushing and trending lower, I'm only looking for opportunities to trade going to the downside, meaning pullbacks to key areas of supply. So the number one lesson, first and foremost, is to form a bias in which way the market is trending. And how can you do that? Simply by understanding structure of the market. So if the market is moving lower, I'm only looking for opportunities every time that it breaks structure going lower to look for supply setups, okay? Or if it's moving to the upside and breaking structure, then I would be looking for demand setups. Now, again, forming the bias by looking at a bigger or more global perspective of the market. Looking at your higher charts is going to give you that defining picture, or it's going to lay out the layout or the environment for you to understand which way you need to be trading, okay? So that's number one. Get the direction concretely, mastered, okay? You want to know which way it is the market is moving, okay? You don't want to be trading against a moving train is what I'm trying to say, okay? So form your bias. Number two, when it comes to scalping, that lesson is going to be trade, again, the overall direction of the market. Number one was form a bias. Number two, trade the overall direction. Well, you may be saying, well, that's kind of the same. No, it's really not, because trading the overall direction means if the market is moving to the upside, okay, I use what's called chart confluence, meaning I'm basically looking at two charts, a higher range and a lower range. So whatever the higher range is doing, I want to trade in the same direction overall on my lower range. I'm not taking trades directly from the higher range. I move down once I have identified the movement if it's bullish to the upside on my higher range chart. I then scale down to my lower chart, my range bar chart, to look for trades going to the upside as well, so that I'm moving higher and on the lower charts to the upside. Okay, that's number two when it comes to understanding and grasping the lessons that need to be learned when we're looking for opportunities to scalp within the future markets. Okay, number three, what do you need to do? You really need to start again by looking at your higher chart, okay, and identify if the market is bullish, then looking for demand setups. If the market is bearish and trending lower, then looking for your supply setups, okay. And I'm gonna show you an example of what I mean here for just well, first of all, let's take a look at this. If we see the market is bearish to the downside, right? But then we start to do what? We've got this ultimate low here, and then we can mark it. The market starts to move back up to the upside. I'll blow this up, making higher highs and higher lows. And as we're breaking structure, taking out levels to the left, then we can clearly see that the market is doing what? Now we are bullish back to the upside, and it basically makes this high right here as it approaches to the upside there. Now, as the market starts to make these highs, higher lows, and we start to take levels to the left hand side of the chart out, or to the left, then I would be looking for pullbacks to actually go long. Okay, so when it finally makes, so like for example, push up, pull back, push up. If it came back here, I'll look to go long. It pushes up higher here. It comes back. It breaks below this area of, say, example, this area of demand right here. And then it continues breaking structure to the upside. But you got to mark off your low point and then mark off the final ascending point where it makes a final high. Because that way you can then identify, okay, what do I need to do from here? Should I be looking for movement back to the upside if it breaks this high, or if it breaks this low right here? So what we want to identify is opportunities within the market where we can go, say for example, go long if the market is bullish to the upside or if it's bearish. So here we're bullish to the upside. You can see it making higher highs and higher lows. And then it comes back down as it's retracing pretty much to where we have these, these lows, lower highs, lows, lower highs coming to the downside. And it's then where you can actually identify, key areas to actually go short from. Like right here, this is a opportunity to go short from this small area of supply right here. Okay. Now, what you want to do is once you've identified, okay, now where we were once bullish to the upside, now the market is doing what? It's coming back lower to the downside, breaking below areas. We got low, lower high, lows, lower highs. We're taking structure out, coming back down to the downside, low, lower high, lows right here, and then we higher, and then we kind of move back up. We tap into the supply zone right here because now we're bearish to the downside where we were once bullish. Look for key areas when the market starts flipping to and starts to trend back bearish, making lower lows, lower highs to actually go short from. Okay, so here I would be looking for longs, but if you notice, it made a low and a high here, so we're in between a leg. And then it starts making lows, lower highs to the downside and pullbacks to where you can find beautiful areas of, supply. You can actually go short and aim for the low right there. So I would mark this up on my higher range chart. So that's, pretty much number 3 when it comes to the scalping lessons that you actually want to kind of master is find the higher chart supply or demand zone. And in this case here, we've got a supply zone right there. I would mark it up. Now, I'm not going to trade off of that zone there from the higher range chart, but the higher charts are going to carry a lot more weight. So mark and find your zones on the higher charts first. And then what you want to do is wait for the retracements back to the actual zone. Okay, on the higher chart. Well, you can basically move down or scale down to your lower chart, which is scalping lesson number 4. As the markets were tracing back to your zone here, meaning the supply area here, then you can move down to your lower chart to find a setup. Again, I'm basically using 2 charts, following the overall direction of the higher chart, then looking for on the lower chart, if I got a supply zone here, a supply zone setup on my lower chart, moving in the direction, same direction, bearish to the downside, okay, as the higher chart. That's number 4. Second, locate your lower chart supply or demand zone, in this case here, because we're bearish, marking up a supply setup on my lower chart, because now I have a higher chart supply zone, and then I move down to, say, my 24 range. I'm sorry, this is actually gold here, so I would move down to a 12 range chart. Now, depending on the market, I have various charts I actually use. On gold futures, okay, I use a 60 range and a 12 range chart. These are all the things that I talk about when it comes to the strategy and the system, how I actually trade, which, if you want to join and become either an elite or an ultra elite supporter, you get all the access to that private community, which is very inexpensive, guys. And I'll talk about it towards the end of this video here, but that's where I really break things down in reference to the strategies, the charts I use, talking about structure, just a list of things, of perks and rewards you receive. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But as long as you're bearish, mark up the higher chart. Then, number 2, mark up your lower chart zone. So as the market taps into the higher chart, look for opportunity to find a supply setup, because we got supply setup here on the higher chart. Look for opportunity on the lower chart to find a supply setup to go short in the direction with the overall market. Now, if we were bullish back to the upside, say for example, once the market made this low right here, I would look for opportunity where it starts to make higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows back to the upside. If it broke and took out this high here, then I would say, okay, I can look for a demand setup because now we're looking bullish back to the upside and wait for it to pull back. I'll mark the zone on my higher chart. It pulls back to the demand zone on my higher chart. Then move down to your lower chart to find a demand zone as when the market taps the higher chart demand zone. Look for a lower chart demand zone. And take the trade going back, preferably to the upside as the market is trending higher. Pulls back. You can try to take a scalp going to the upside right here, but you got to be mindful. I'll talk about price action as the market's retracing or coming back to a zone. Be careful. There is a swing here where the market broke structure coming back to the zone, and it was making lows, lower highs, low, lower highs. So the market can react right here, and it does. If you scalp that back to the upside off your lower chart, off a demand setup, then you may have got a few points before it came back lower. Then it goes back up. And what does it do? It takes out this area of structure right here back to the upside, which was a high. Then you see this a beautiful area of demand to the upside. Look for that pullback right there because that's the one you want to take. Going back to the upside here as the market does, pushes up, retraces back, doesn't stop you out, and the market takes out that high right there. So again, identify the trend, the movement of the overall higher chart. Find your zones on the higher chart. Move down to your lower chart, and whatever zones you have marked up, if it's a supply zone, then find a supply setup on the lower chart. If it's a demand zone, find a demand zone set up on the lower chart. That way you are moving, when you're looking for a trade to basically scalp off of the lower chart, you're moving in the same direction as the higher chart, okay? Once the market basically comes back to, let's say, for example, this zone, or it could be this zone right here, to a supply or demand zone, you get the rejection from your lower chart. The areas in which you want to take your trade to, as far as profit areas or targets, this is number 5, makes basically being into the rejection on a retracement back to a lower chart zone. Once you get the rejection, you want to take the trade either back to, say, for example, beautiful area of demand right here. Take it back to fill the imbalances, these gaps in between these candles, back up to maybe a supply area, or preferably to a most recent high that it just came off of as it was tracing back to the demand zone. So those are the 5 scalping lessons that I really want to actually cover, that you really probably want to pay close attention to, the way of how I go about trading, the system or strategy that I trade, as a futures trader every day, scalping the markets. That's what I do. I go into this in more depth and detail for the elite and the ultra elite supporters, and that's what I'm going to talk about right now. If you choose to want to become an elite or an ultra elite, the link is down in the description portion of the video. It's titled Ultra Elite Supporter. Click on that. You're going to see a couple tiers pop up. Choose either. Click on the elite or the ultra elite. When you do that, it's going to show you the perks and rewards that you receive for each one. As an elite supporter, you receive all my trade breakdown videos, which are cover basically the cornerstone, the blueprint to how I actually trade, because I walk you through series of video content one after another while I'm breaking down trades that I post over on the Discord. I break them down in great detail for that private community of everyone who's an elite and ultra or an ultra elite supporter. Walk you through structure, price action, stop loss placement, profit target areas. I go into detail about those setups so you can grasp an understanding of, eventually you'll start to see and start to click why I took that trade, because I talked to you why I took that trade in reference to my mindset on these setups, okay? But you also receive the video playlist and a great video that I cover surrounding market structure as well. Now, if you want to up the ante a little bit and move it up to the next tier, which is the ultra elite supporter tier, what you receive there are everything I just mentioned, okay? The trade breakdowns, the video playlist, the market structure video, but you also receive my live recorded trading sessions where I record my sessions. I talk to you about top-down analysis, structure their actual market. I'm letting you know through, basically my mindset of what I'm looking at as the market is moving. And you see me engage in trading setups, and I talk to you the reason why I got into the setups and explain, again, where to take a trade from, where to take it to, where to place your stop loss, things of that nature, so you understand these videos. They're basically, to me, I treat them as kind of like, as educational components that you can learn tidbits of information from that's surrounding how I trade now. Now, I can't guarantee anything to anyone out there because everyone's perspective of how they read the markets and understanding structure of that nature, and understanding the correct way. Some people carry bad habits, and they just don't quite understand. And I know that they'll eventually get there, but that's the reason why I make this video content. So that's the purpose of becoming an elite or an ultra elite if you choose to. Very inexpensive. I'm not here to charge people crazy amounts of money. It's just pennies on the dollar a day is what it breaks down to be. So once you click that link down in the description portion of the video, you're going to see, you know, the price there, price tag, and it's very, very, very inexpensive, guys. I'm talking, you know, lots of people are becoming successful. We have a testimonial section over on the Discord. Join the Discord too, okay? You will see that there's a channel where people have posted testimonials talking about how the strategy has helped them, how moving from time-based charts down to range charts has really helped them and things of that nature. So, and how the strategy has helped them pass their challenges and evals as well when it comes to these prop firms and those that are trading with their own with their own capital as well. But outside of that, guys, that's all I really have today. If you haven't taken the time to actually subscribe to the channel, please click the subscription button down below. Make sure to turn your post notifications on by clicking the bell. And last but not least, that's all I have today. Drop a like if you found some value in today's video content. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.